Do you want to know more about building model railroad scenery? Why don't you stick around and watch this segment, see how we do it on my scale model railroad, the Sayre Secondary. Hello everyone, Joe from Central Jersey Conrail and InScale. Welcome back to the scenery playlist. So this time we're going to be doing the conclusion to the Ciba Geigy build, which you can see is done over behind me. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and cut you over to the video so you can see how we did it, and then when I come back we'll talk about it and I'll explain everything. And okay, so sit back, relax, enjoy the video, and I'll see you afterwards. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and paint the backdrop. So when I'm painting my backdrop, the first thing I do is I come in and I lay that haze down along the horizon line, and then I start working on the clouds. I found that when you're doing this, it works good to just do it in layers. So you'll see me go forward, then I'll go back, and then I'll go forward again, and just adding the layers over the clouds, that really brings it all together. While I absolutely love my new Iwata airbrush, I found that when you're painting for a long periods, there's accumulation that builds up on the nozzle, and then it starts spitting out little like splatters, and that's why you constantly see me stopping with the brushes and the rag to clean up the tip. Okay, so now that the backdrop is done, we're going to go ahead and focus our attention on the track work. What I need to do here is I need to come in and install my wooden ties and then glue them in place in preparation for painting the track. doing this, don't forget to install the head block ties for your turnouts. A couple times I've forgotten that in the past, and it just makes it very difficult to go back and put them in later after you've already ballasted the track. So. This bag of wooden ties I got from Fast Tracks, and it's the same bag that I've had through the whole process, so you get a good amount of ties and pretty much do your whole layout. Alright, here we are getting started painting the track. I'm using Model Flex Rail Brown in my airbrush. I don't bother thinning it down. It's already pre-thinned, and then just go ahead and spray. Make sure to avoid the areas around the points of the turnout so they don't stick, and then just work through it. Okay, so while the paint is still kind of drying, I come in here with a track cleaning tool and go ahead and just clean off the tops of the rails. Make sure there's no paint residue left, so to affect our conductivity. Okay, so this little opening here is the opening to the helix, and what we're doing here is we're going to install this bridge and roadway as kind of a senior divider, and also I'm going to use this bridge to kind of block the hole so that you can't really see it. And then we'll come in more and we'll dress it up with trees later. So this road here is State Highway Route 37. We're just going to be putting it in with using craft foam. Don't forget, in the previous segment, we made that roadway surface nice and flat by using the foam core underneath the plastic gauze. So I think it came out super nice. I definitely think I'm going to use that in the future for my roads. It's a good process. So I'm just using Elmer's white glue, and then we're going to hold the foam in place with push pins overnight while the glue sets up. Okay, so here we are. We're going to get started on the grade crossing. I'm just using a lightweight spackle to build the grade crossing, and then once I get it all set and it's all smoothed out, I'm just using my hands, as you can see. I'll take that black gondola in the background there and run it through to clear the flangeways. It's got some older deep metal wheel sets from back in the 70s. So it makes a real nice wide cut in the flangeways, so that the newer style wheels that I use definitely go through very easily. All right, now we're going to paint the roadway. I'm just using apple barrel asphalt, and you notice I'm just pouring it on there and just spreading it around, because with this craft foam, it's very porous, and you need to put a real heavy layer of paint or multiple layers of thin paint to close up all the pores in there. So now we're going to come in here and stripe the roadway. I'm using highways and byways sets, the yellow, the white bars, and then the special set that has all the graphics for turn lanes and railroad crossings. Okay, so here we are getting started on structures. So all the structures are assembled and weathered, and then I installed lighting. All of my lights are LEDs. You'll notice a lot of them are cool white. The street lights are warm white, so it kind of mixes the colors together. Still looking for that real good LED that represents those sodium mercury vapor lights, and I'm just not having good luck finding them. So just went with the cool white because I had them. I bought a huge box of them from China for like a couple bucks or however it is, and it's pretty much lasted me, through majority of the layout. So all we're going to do is we come in there, we mark the locations of where the wire leads need to go through, then I'm going to come in with my hot wire tool and poke a hole through the styrofoam. I found that the base for all the buildings is styrofoam because it just makes it easier for getting the wiring through, and it's also super flat. Previous sections when I did the plaster gauze and Sculptamold, it was always uneven. So I've pretty much got down to this process. So here I'm doing a little bit of ground cover behind those buildings before I get too far with stuff and I can't reach in the back. I want to just take this moment just to mention that if you notice I'm putting these buildings in, I'm not gluing the buildings down. I don't glue my buildings down anymore because of the previous section over in Sayreville, and for maintenance or any problems, I just use the ground cover and the matte medium to hold the buildings in place. So it makes it easier if I have to pull the buildings out to rewire or change lights or something like that. And then I'll just do the ground cover and landscaping around the building after I rip it out. So in the final editing here, I'm sorry, I don't know why, but I skipped a couple of videos. I don't know where they went. Is the line poles and the street signs for all the roads. I thought I had footage of me installing all that. The line poles are just Atlas that I painted, and then I use Easy Line, and then all of the street signs are from Blair Line kits. So here I'm just taking time to finalize positioning of all the tanks and stuff so that it doesn't block all the lights and create too many shadows. So that's what I'm doing here in the dark. So this little sequence here, this is a lot of fun. For grade crossing protection, I used a logic rail fusee with a push button on the fascia. So I'm just demonstrating here. A train would pull up to Route 37, conductor would walk out, light the fuse to stop the traffic, and I'll get back on the train, and the train will proceed through the crossing. So yeah, adds a lot of visual interest, and operations wise is going to be very key to the scene. So just want to put this little video in there. I didn't show any of the install because it's all under the layout. There's not really much to see. That LED they gave you is really nice, very small, and I kind of tucked it down into the road itself so it doesn't stick out and you don't have to see this big red blob on top. Just a little in-progress shot here before we get started on ground cover. And a little nighttime. Alright, so here we go, getting started on scenery and ground cover. So here I'm working on ballasting the rails before I get too far. And what I've done here is because some of the pictures that I've seen, the very few pictures I've been able to find, it looked to me that there was a lot of sand that infiltrated the ballast inside the facility here. So I kind of made up my own mixture here with a little bit of medium gray ballast, some black cinder ballast, and sand, and a little bit of ground foam. And I'm just going to come in here and ballast it down real. Now you'll notice there's no cork road bed here, so there's no profile. It's all flat, and that just helps with the portray the image that the rails were kind of not really taken care of. They just were there, and that's how it turned out. Yeah, so all the tanks that you see here in this scene they're all scratch built, just scratch built with PVC and some styrene and just a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, and I think they came out super nice. And they're these size tanks that you just can't seem to find in scale. So yeah, I really recommend just try scratch building with some PVC and some styrene, and they come out really good. Okay, so this production rig you see in front of you here at Building 108, which is the red brick building on the left, that production rig was all 3D printed. I got it off Shapeways. The designer is called Ngineer. I'm going to put his link up in the comment section here so you guys can go check it out. Super, super nice. It came out so good, and used some nice testers, metallic series paint. So I used some silver, some aluminum, some steel, brass, and it just really pops. It came out perfect. so the theme throughout this facility is lots of sand everywhere, not much growth, scattered weeds around, but mostly sand, and that's what I was looking for here. I really like the way it came out. So this ground cover I'm using here, it's the same 3-pound bucket that I've had since the beginning of this layout. It's sand that I got from down in the Glidden sand pit when I was rail fanning the area, doing research for this project. And all I did was I sifted it, triple sifted it, and then baked it in the oven to dry it out. And it's perfect. I love it. And I got real Jersey dirt on the layout, so. Okay, here we go getting started putting the trees in. These are all super trees. I had leftovers from previous sections, so I'm going to work them into this section. I didn't really get too concerned with whether they're pine trees or whether they're deciduous trees, because to be honest with you, other than the color, you can't really tell. So, in scale anyway. So that's why I'm just going with what I got, and you use these bushes and armatures to fill in this hole, and I like the way it came out. It really worked, I think. And then of course, don't forget, on these slopes on the side, this side of the bridge, there will be more trees, so it'll make total sense when the scene's complete. I just didn't want to get too far into the next section yet. Alright, so here we go, wrapping up. We're going to put some shrubs and weeds and other ground effects in, and what I'm putting in here is by Martin Welberg Studios. It's Strucken Type B Lichtgrün, and to be honest with you, I could have done better with Super Tree armatures for the money. So, alright, hope you guys enjoyed. everyone, so there you go. That's how we did it. So yeah, very, very happy with the build. It came out exactly how I was trying to get it to look, and yeah, I'm very happy with it. So, you know, the whole thing about this build was it was kind of rather difficult because there's not very much research out there, as I've indicated in the past. You know, I hope that producing a couple videos would maybe bring some people forward and contact me saying, oh, I used to work there, or I have pictures, but it never transpired. I kind of just shot from the hip, went off of historical aerials. Historical aerials, I'm going to talk about them. I don't get any kind of endorsement from them, so I just want to preface it that. Historical aerials actually has some really good photographs in certain time periods, and what you can do is you can actually buy the print of the photograph that you're looking at, and it gets you a super huge, very high resolution. I think when you view them, I think they kind of maybe turn the resolution down. So I had bought a aerial shot from 1986 of the facility, and yeah, I could pick up a lot of detail, and it was helped out a lot. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick, so that if anybody's doing any kind of facility research like this, you know, go over to historical aerials. You might be able to pick up some extra tips through them. So, you know, I put together these kits, the Walthers Metro Power and Light, that low building that's behind the trees there, the brick one. That was the second half of the Walthers car shop. I had leftover parts, so I put it together, and that kind of really fit the genre that I was kind of looking for the steam plant, the original steam plant. So when I talk about this facility, is there was actually the original steam plant was built when the facility was built back in the 50s. But as the facility grew and more production lines came online, it quickly overwhelmed the steam plant, so they added a second one, and that's what I use Metro and Power and Light to kind of represent. The newer facility was both coal and oil, so they had. That's why I used the coal bin in there, which is actually the ash pit. But I used that to represent the coal bin because they could receive shipments of coal if they wanted to, but mostly they burn bunker oil. And then after my research in reading from the Superfund write-up, said that the original facility was converted from coal to oil after that facility came online. Now these steam plants, you know, they produce steam because steam was used in all the production lines, but it was also used for heating and various other functions throughout the facility. And don't forget, they had 7 production buildings throughout this facility. It was a 1,300 acre property, but there was approximately 200 acres that were developed for the production facility, and they had 7 major buildings, but then they had all kinds of other outlying facilities, and I've read somewhere that they had up to 37 buildings on property. So what we're kind of representing here on this little stretch is the easternmost portion of the facility, and then there would be more buildings behind those buildings into the backdrop. So building 107, building 104, 103, and 102. 101, which was the administrative building. So, you know, there's various other buildings that were not included here because I just didn't have the room. So I was noticing in my aerials and also the couple grainy pictures that I did get is that the facility was in South Jersey. So what you got to know about the geography of South Jersey is it's very sandy. It's the sandy pine barrens. And so looking at those pictures, there was lots of sand throughout the facility. There wasn't grass or weeds or anything. It was just sand and little patches of growth. So that's what I kind of tried to represent here by putting down the dirt and then just sprinkling in the ground foam to represent the weeds. So I really like the way it came out. The ballast work on the track was totally speculative because I could, a long time ago, there was a website called the Blue Comet. And it was this guy who was an old rail fan down in South Jersey in Ocean County, and he had all kinds of great old shots. And one of the shots he had was an actual delivery by Conrail at Building 105, and I don't know how he got it, but because 105 is deep within the facility. And the picture I do recall was there was a lot of sand that had blown up on the ballast of the track. So that's kind of what I trying to represent. It was kind of mixing the ballast with the sand and a little bit of ground foam just to kind of make it look not like clean ballast. So kind of I like the way that it came out. Achieved what I was trying to get at. Then the building 108 was kind of, I think I've discussed this either on Facebook or something else, but so building 108 was built in the early 70s, and it was kind of this polymer production line that they made these resins and kind of like resin dyes and all kinds of weird stuff. Building 108 was an add-on, but they had a lot of exterior production equipment. They didn't have very many tanks in that area because when they built 108, they put the tanks underground. I found that also in the Superfund write-up. So, but if you look at the aerial shot, the track curves around off the main. It would actually be it's mirrored. I had to flip it to make it fit in this peninsula, but it would be mirrored. It would curve this way into 108. But the 108 was their production rack was closer to the tracks, and the building was on the other side. But if I did that beautiful structure that that Ngineer made on 3D on the 3D print on Shapeways, if I had done that, the building would have blocked the view of anybody at the layout of the 3D printed facility. So I was like, no, I'm just going to flip it around. So that's why I did what I did, even though it's not prototypical. So, and then the weeks leading up to putting it all together, I was looking at the buildings. I'm kind of like, these just don't look right. I don't know why. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I was like, weathering. So the weathering, what you had to realize is this is kind of the end of Ciba Geigy. So I kind of went really heavy and dirty, except for 108 because it was a newer building. So all the older buildings, the steam plant, the 105 and all that, I heavy weathered them. Not really rusty running, but just lots of soot and dust and dirt, just to, kind of give you that impression that, hey, this is the end of this facility. It's kind of old, it's ragged. Because I imagine at this point they probably knew, because 1986, Ciba Geigy's permit for ocean dumping had been denied by the DEP and the EPA. So that kind of spelled the end, because Ciba Geigy announced when they didn't get the permit, they're like, okay, well, we're going to be closing the facility. So in 86, they announced it, but it took them till 89 to actually totally shut down. So probably around this time frame they were modeling, the 1988 time frame, they knew that, hey, the end is near, so let it go, because we're leaving. So that's why I kind of just went real heavy on the weathering. And once I did that, it all came together. I'm like, oh, this looks really good. So Route 37. Route 37 is this road that runs right in here. I'm kind of using that as a scenic divider between that and Lakehurst. Don't forget, in the prototype, Lakehurst here, there would have been a couple miles of track till you got to the facility. And then there was the old Barnegat branch, I think it was called. And then the line kind of curved up to the north across 37 as the industrial lead into the plant. So a lot of questions have come up on Facebook and Instagram is, hey, how come you're not, modeling it properly? Because it has the big crossing gates with the cantilever crossing signals, and it's a big 6-lane road. And yeah, it is currently. But back in the day, in 1986, Route 37 hadn't been expanded yet. It was just a little 2-lane state highway. Now, the only thing I can't determine definitively is was the crossing protected or not. So I kind of was like, I don't know what to do. So I just said, you know what? It was an industrial lead going across a 2-lane road, 1988 time frame. I guarantee you that they probably didn't have any kind of grade crossing protection. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to just not do that. Then I kind of came across the Logic Rails Fusee that you saw in the video, and I said, let me give this a shot, put it in, and you know what, man, that is awesome. That's a lot of fun. You hit that push button on the fascia, the timer goes off, and the fuse lights. Yeah, perfect. I think it's really a win situation for that. The only thing was I didn't do 2 flares, because the way I would have to put in another trigger, and I couldn't really figure out with the instructions if I could do 2 flares off of 1 trigger. And yeah, but it's a great little product. It was only $29, really inexpensive. 1 afternoon of work. The push buttons I got off Amazon, I got a dozen of them for I think like $5. And then what's nice about it is it has a little timer that you can adjust according to your fast clock if you want to make it burn longer or burn shorter. So yeah, so that pretty much is everything about the facility, and I think over the coming weeks or so I may populate it with some more details and more vehicles. I I just put in there what I thought. I had to kind of add a little road in there. You'll see you saw in the pictures in between the water tower and 105, because it just made sense, like how would vehicle traffic get through there. I didn't bother with a grade crossing in the facility because there really wasn't much room. So you got to kind of imagine that the facility is 1,300 acres. Just use your imagination. But so I got some vehicles in there, barrels. It's going to be the running theme is, because if you read into the history, is they dumped a lot of stuff. So I just got barrels, and I'm just putting them all over the facility. So if you look in the pictures, you'll see a couple barrels tipped over and stuff. So that's why I did that. Okay, so there you go. Where are we headed? So next month we're going to be jumping back over to Lakehurst, doing the scenery base, styrofoam, the plaster, the cardboard webbing and all that. And I want to get that done, get that painted. And the reason I'm doing that is, and then I'm going to Freehold. So we're doing Lakehurst next month, December Freehold, getting all that area, all the pink foam in, painted, and step back. That'll take us up to the end of the year. Early next year, January to February timeframe, I got to get this main line fixed. So that's going to require possibly some re-engineering. Not really sure what clearance is, how it's going to turn out. We're going to go with the fast tracks turnouts. I'm going to build those and then see if we have to do any reconfiguration of the track work. So I figured it would be easier if I put the scenery base in, because if I got to move the track over a little bit, I can kind of use the scenery to support the track work instead of worrying about ripping out sub-road bed and rebuilding plywood. So gonna try and I got to get these two sections done in here, so that'll facilitate me moving all that in the first of the year, because I really can't go too much further. Lakehurst, I can't do the highway. I got to get the highway bridge built, then put in Route 70, and because it's an elevated through the area. I don't want to get involved in doing that, because if I got to move track work. So same with Freehold. I don't want to get over there and start doing scenery work in Freehold when I'm going to maybe end up moving track. So yeah, just going to be doing those two videos. That'll take us to the end of the year, and then next year get my all my supplies together for the fast tracks and get working on that. Another video you can keep your eyes out for is the backdrop. There was a ton of video footage from the backdrop. I must have filmed all 8 hours of doing that work, and it didn't fit into this video. I mean, I put some, you saw some portions of me doing it, but I didn't put all 8 hours of it in, and because I didn't want to bog down the whole video, because it wasn't about the backdrop. It was kind of more about the facility. However, it just seems like a crime to delete all that video footage, because there's a lot of good stuff. I don't know if you've noticed, people have been commenting how great this backdrop is. The unfortunate part about it is that the reason it's getting so good, and I'm not saying it's perfect, is because of experience on all the other backdrops. So what I did over in Sayreville was my first time doing it, and each area got better and better and better. So this is kind of like I'm getting to the peak of my creative talents here. So I think I had a lot of good techniques I want to teach you, and I figured let's just take that video footage. I'm going to produce another video. I'm just going to throw it out there, probably either November or December, whenever I get it edited. So it'll just be an extra video on doing the backdrop and how my process has gotten better and what I've learned. So I figured, yeah, let's just do that. And the only problem is now, maybe I should go back and repaint them now. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I mean, they're good. I'm happy with them, but this is so much better. It's just like, I don't know what to do. So there you go. Okay, so I think that's going to put a wrap on this video. So if you've seen this video for the first time, you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, because we'd love to have you following along. And if you haven't done so, check out our Facebook page, Instagram, and TikTok for our daily updates. Otherwise, that's all I have for you, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.